and welcome to a Facebook video with Christy Hillock from CJ Card Creations. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I am so grateful that you're here. If you could like and share this video if you enjoy it, that really helps me. And also make sure that you follow my business page or my YouTube or my Instagram so that you never miss any of the fun projects that I share. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. These are the 3 cards that the, let's see, it's July Sending Good Thoughts Paper Pumpkin made. And I love this kit, you guys. It's so pretty. And then I just wanted to doll up the insides just a little bit. So I did just use a few of the stamps that were in here. Oh, well, apparently I didn't think that one needed anything. So maybe I'll go back and take care of that. But this is actually what I wanted to share with you tonight. So this is the alternate that I came up with. And because it is my heat embossing month, I went ahead and did some of that. And then it's also actually watercoloring month, like National Watercoloring Month, I think. And so I thought we could do a little bit of watercoloring too. So I'm going to show you how to do all of this. This fold that I decided to use, I believe is called a book fold. So it's really simple. You take a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of cardstock and score it at 5 1/2, just like normal, and then also 6 1/2. And then you just burnish your fold lines just like usual. So we'll fold this one back on itself here. And that is our card base. Now before I glue right here, I am just going to tie some twine around it to make a cute little bow. I feel like this bow with the linen thread is, you know, adds a lot, but it's not so feminine that you couldn't share this card with a man. So let's get this little bow tied, and then I am actually going to use Stampin' Seal Plus to secure this panel because I tried liquid glue on my sample and it works, but it just doesn't give quite as much hold as I would like to see for this. So hopefully our Seal Plus can do the trick. So I am just going to bring this in and we'll go right down the middle. And then I also, well, that is not gonna get it, but let's see, get right there, and a little more here too. Hopefully that's about where I want it to be. Oh, nailed it. Check that out. Okay, so I think that's gonna hold pretty well. So I can set that aside for now. So then the next thing that I wanna do is bring in this panel of our Fluid 100 watercoloring paper. And first I want to get our boat on here with Versamark, and then I'm going to heat emboss it with copper powder. That was kind of the closest to brown, and I felt like old-timey ships are definitely more brown since they were made from wood. And I guess painted sometimes, but I don't know for sure. So anyway, copper looked nice. Now I've got that stamped. I'm going to bring in my powder and my high-tech coffee filter and just get a little more powder here. You know what? That did not ink up as well as I would have liked. So I am actually just going to try again. And we will just re-stamp on the back side. It's always nice to know that you have this option. Every piece of cardstock has 2 sides. And that does look well inked, so perhaps I just didn't put enough pressure in the right spots. So, take 2. Oh yeah, that looks much better. You can see everything is nicely coated with the powder. And so before we heat that up, I'm just going to clean up here. Now, our new Embossing Editions toolkit includes a tray that you can do in place of a coffee filter. It includes a paintbrush that you can use to clear off any unwanted little flecks that stuck to your cardstock. It includes a set of reverse tweezers that are awesome for helping you hold the cardstock as you are adding the heat to it. And then it also includes an embossing pal, I think is what they're calling it, which I didn't use on this, but you could certainly. And that just helps remove some of the static from the cardstock. So I'm just letting my heat tool heat up before I apply it to the cardstock. I think that's probably about there. You can heat from both the front and the back. And that way it kind of helps prevent some of the curling that the paper will do. And it also helps minimize some of that scorching that happens sometimes. So you can see it's starting to melt and get shiny, and that is how you know that you are pretty well done. All right, and as you see, I'm holding the cardstock so I don't burn my fingers, which is always nice. So I am just gonna let that sit for just a minute while I do a couple more things to my card base. So I have just a piece of basic white that is cut down to the right size to line this. And normally I wouldn't use my Seal Plus for this, but it's sitting here, so that's gonna be just fine. And this rectangle is only 1/4 of an inch different from one side to the other, so you just want to make sure that you put it in the right way before you seal it down. Okay, now I've also taken a piece of Pacific Point cardstock along with my Stripes 3D embossing folder, and if you follow me, you may know that this is one of my absolute favorite folders. But what I did, because as you can see the cardstock is wider than the folder, so I just lined it up with, you know, this edge, that there's that line there, and then ran it through, and then I moved it, made sure it lined up pretty well. It's not going to be perfect and it doesn't matter, and then ran it through again, and that's how I got a larger panel taken care of. So we can go ahead and glue this on, and then we will do our first round of watercoloring. So today I wanted to do just kind of an easy sort of a watercolor wash, and then you actually get a little bit of an embossed resist technique with this as well because of that heat embossed section. And back to this panel that I'm gluing on, because it is a 3D panel, I do use a little bit more glue and a little more pressure just to make sure that it really gets good and adhered, because there is so much depth to it. All right, so the first thing that we are going to watercolor is our ocean. So for that, I'm gonna bring in my Bermuda Bay, and as you can see, there's already some ink in the lid. So I chose to use the really wide tipped water painter for this because it's really not going to be terribly precise. But before I start picking up any color, I do just want to get a little bit of water on the cardstock, only in the part where I want there to be ocean. So I'm going to go across the back too. What that does is helps keep it from curling quite so much as it dries. So now I've picked up some Bermuda Bay, and so you can see I've got a fairly good base layer down there, and then I'm trying to hold pretty closely to that line, you know, at the sides, so that it doesn't look like the whole world got taken over by ocean. Now I'm just picking up little dabs to give my water some dimension. And, you know, if I don't like this, I can just always wash it in. But I think that is looking pretty good for what I'm trying to accomplish. So I am just going to come in right under my boat to get it a little darker there, because there would probably be a little bit of shadow. And now I am done with that color. So I can go ahead and set my paintbrush aside after I clean it. And I'm also going to set aside the actual watercoloring panel. It needs to dry for just a little bit, because you do want to make sure that it is completely dry before you try to do the next color. Otherwise you'll end up with just a whole bunch of bleed. And then your colors don't look so pretty. All right, so I took the Thinking of You stamp from that stamp set that came in the paper pumpkin, and I'm just going to stamp it right on there. And I believe that that is it for that color of ink. So I'm going to set that off to the side now. And you can see that I flagged the ends of my sentiment banner. So I have this banner Pick-a-Punch that I use all the time for this kind of thing. You can also just use your little paper snips to cut your flag, but I just am quite the perfectionist for certain things, and this is one of them. It makes me crazy when it's not perfectly even. So as you can see, I'm just lining it up so that it is centered there, and I barely cut out anything. Just really flagged the ends there. So I'm not going to glue this on just yet, but it is ready to go. And then this piece of vellum is actually the same size as the watercolor panel, and it will end up like this. But again, I'm not going to glue that on yet, because I want to make sure that nothing changes with that watercolor panel, or that, you know, it needs to be situated a little differently. So, all right, this is getting closer to dry, but I do think that it needs to sit a little bit longer. Now, if you looked at this and decided, oh, you know, I just really didn't get that water dark enough, no problem. You can come back in with a little more color now. But again, I would get it wet all the way across before I started adding that color, just to make sure that you don't end up with kind of like a pinpoint of really, really dark color that you can't wash out or spread out, if that makes sense. So we will just let that go for a few. Okay, you can also hasten the drying process a little bit if you want to, just with using your heat tool. But as you're doing that, I would be careful, because you don't want to cause any scorching or overheat that powder. So I'm going to bring back in my paper towels here. And for this sky, I started with a Poppy Parade wash, and I'm going to go ahead and get just a little more ink in that lid. So to get ink in the lid, you just squeeze it between the palms of your hands, and then you end up with a little bit more ink there. If that's not sufficient, you can also get your re-inker and just put a drop of it on a clear block, or, you know, even in the lid here if you wanted to do it that way. So I'm just going to make sure that that brush is clean. And now I'm going to follow that same process. I want to squeeze some water out onto my watercolor paper, and I'm going to come right down to the water, the Bermuda Bay water, but I don't want to actually touch it. And then as you can see, I'm working my way into the sails, but I am not going over the heat embossed lines on those sails, because I want to make sure that I don't end up with red sails, because they should really be white. So now that I've got that all wet, I'm going to go ahead and pick up my ink. And I really just thought the color combination in this kit was fantastic. I would never I don't think ever have put Poppy Parade and Bermuda Bay together, and it's gorgeous. And then you add in the fresh freesia and it really is just so striking, but also still soothing, I found, with the blues and the purple. So hopefully you liked this set as well. And even if you didn't get the paper pumpkin, I think this is a technique that you can use with a lot of different stamps that you have already in your stash. So take a look, see what you might want to give it a try with, and then take a picture of your projects and share them in my Facebook group, CJ Cards Stampers group. And I'll have links to everything in the description of this video, so you can go and check out all of my different spots. So I think I've got enough of the Poppy Parade. So now I will bring in my fresh freesia pad, and I'm just going to do the same thing to get a little bit of ink. And this pad's quite a bit juicier than the Poppy Parade was, so that was a little easier this time. So now I'm just going to do kind of like how I did in the bottom, but here I use the same color. This time I'm using a different color, and it does just bleed out and kind of blend together a little bit. And I really enjoy just watching this process, watching the color move and seeing how everything turns out. And each time they turn out just a little bit differently, which is fun. No two cards are ever the same, and I think watercoloring really just shows that to be true. So now you can carefully touch up, and you could also get a finer tipped brush if you wanted to get really into the grooves. But I think that is going to do it. So one last time to clean my brush, and I'm just squeezing water from the barrel out into the brush until it drips out onto my paper towel, or, you know, burp rag, whatever kind of thing you want to use to keep your workspace clean and be able to clean your brushes. And I think that is nice and clean. These bristles will stain just a little bit, and that is okay, but I do always just check to make sure it's truly clean before I start watercoloring. So now we're back to the let this dry process, and you can see that it has kind of warped, but we will use enough adhesive on this so that it is not a problem. And yeah, I think the color is going to look nice. So I will be back once that's dry, and we will finish putting our card together. All right, so I'm back. Now this panel, I did again hurry along the drying process just a little bit with my heat tool. You certainly don't have to do that. If you wanted to just walk away, go run some laundry or cook dinner or whatever, you certainly could do that. But I think this is close enough to dry that we can go ahead and put our card together. So I'm going to bring in that card base again, and I always kind of just lay it out to see how offset I want the images to be. And then, yeah, I'm thinking kind of along those lines. So as you'll remember, if you've watched any of my videos that use vellum, the vellum is see-through, and that goes for adhesive as well. So oh, and that was not what I was trying to do. Peeled right up there. So I like to build on top of the vellum first, and then I see where I can hide adhesive to get that vellum attached to my card base. So, well, that is just really not wanting to play nice. I think it's because there's so much texture on the watercolor paper, because that is not a problem that I normally have. Now I have seal all over my fingers. Okay, we'll go sometimes that can have to do with how much pressure you're using as well. So now that I've got that how I want it, I can go ahead and set that on my vellum. And now I can see exactly where I want to apply adhesive. And again, I'm going pretty heavy with the adhesive for this card because of the dimension in my embossed panel. And I think that that will do it. And then I'm just going to bring in some liquid glue because this piece is so narrow that my seal or my tear and tape won't quite fit. So we'll add this on here. And you have a beautiful card with a little bit of an ocean vibe to send to someone that you haven't spoken with in a little bit. And I definitely hope that you will case this technique, even the card exactly, if you have all the supplies, and share them over on my group. Make sure that if you share this video, you comment shared in the comment thread so that I know that you did, so I can enter you for a drawing. And other than that, it is still Celebration. So for every $50 order, if you place that in my online store, then you can choose a free item from the Celebration catalog. And that goes through August 31st. It's also a great time to join Stampin' Up! As a demonstrator. Even if you choose to never do anything but make cards for yourself, you can still be a demonstrator and get that 20% discount, which is really nice. So if you're interested in joining my team, the Queen Bees is a lot of fun. I have some lovely ladies, and we just get together and make beautiful cards and chat, and it's really a lot of fun. There's no business focus, but I also am able to help with any business questions that you might have. And if you sign up during Celebration, in addition to the amazing offer that it regularly is, you'll also get a beautiful planner. And that planner comes with a stamp set and 3 really fun notepads that each have a different type of print inside. And so the sign-up offer is you get to pick $125 of your choice of product, and this has 18 months worth of inserts as well. So $125 worth of product, and you only pay $99 plus tax. You don't even have to pay shipping on that. So that is saving you $11 right there, I think, 12, something like that. So fantastic opportunity. And if you never place another order as a demonstrator, that's just fine too, if you just really want this planner. So I hope that you will hit me up if you have any questions. And I really appreciate your joining me this week, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much. Bye.